I was, of course, it was a flight back. It was the middle of the night, and I wasn't sleeping, so I just got out my iPad and paid the money to connect it to the internet and started doing my notes at
Nice.
like 3 o'clock in the morning on the airplane.
Wow.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
Welcome back to Greatest Lists, a music and talk podcast featuring lists of the greatest songs of all time. I'm Eric, your host for this episode, and joining me as always is my co-host Jason. How's it going, Jason?
Hey, Eric. I got 3 words for you to lead off the show.
Oh my, what are they?
Let's get busy.
Yes. Yes. We are continuing our season 2 list of our favorite guitar solos of all time, and we are currently knee-deep in the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Coming at number 20 is a song from Richard Marx that features guitarist Steve Lukather. From Richard Marx's 1991 album Rush Street, this is Playing with Fire.
Behind the music.
So Rush Street was Marx's third multi-platinum album. Guitarist Steve Lukather is credited for playing on 3 of the album's songs and is actually given a songwriting credit for this song in particular. Lukather also played on Marx's previous album, Repeat Offender, and a song from there may or may not show up in our list when we get to the 80s. Lukather is best known as the sole continuous founding member of the band Toto. He plays guitar, of course, and sings lead vocal on a lot of songs. He's also the guitar player for the Ringo Starr and his all-star band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually have seen Ringo Starr in concert, and he was the guitar player. It was quite a show. It was very. But his reputation as a skilled guitarist has led him to a steady flow of session work beginning in the 70s, and has established him as a prolific session musician, recording guitar tracks from more than 1,500 albums, spanning a broad array of artists and genres. And if you look it up, you can look up what all he's played on. He's basically played for everybody. You name him, he's probably played for that person.
Wow.
He's also contributed to albums and hit singles as a songwriter, arranger, and producer. He's also released 8 solo albums.
Wow.
Yeah, it's prolific. His career is prolific. One of his most notable contributions as a studio musician was probably to the Michael Jackson song Beat It. So, of course, everybody knows the guitar solo for Beat It is Eddie Van Halen. The other guitar that's playing on the track is Steve Lukather. However, when Eddie was invited to play the solo, they had already mapped out a section of the song that they wanted Eddie to play over. When Eddie got a hold of it, he didn't like it. So he recut it. He cut up the tape and recut it so it laid out better for him and soloed over that and sent it back to him. Well, after he recut it, it no longer fit the time signature or the timing of the tape of the song that they had. So Quincy Jones told Steve Lukather and the drummer to get busy. They had to recut and re-record certain tracks to make that guitar solo fit in what they already had with Beat It. So Eddie Van Halen may have played the solo. Steve Lukather had to make it fit in the song.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he had to, if you can find the story online where he talks about what all they had to do to make all the timing fit and all the rhythm fit from song into solo and back into song. It's very interesting. So he also has a couple of signature guitar models made by Ernie Ball Music Man Guitars. The low end will set you back about $3,500. And the upper end, the upper model will run you a smooth $6,000. And he also has a signature model, signature set of pickups made by EMG. So he's just a prolific guitar player, dude. I mean, he's been around since the early 70s, still around. He's just an amazing session player.
1,500 albums. You're going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's get personal.
So I first became aware of Steve Lukather when I watched his guitar instructional video from 1986. It's again, like I mentioned on the Jason Becker Show episode, most of those instructional videos you weren't going to learn anything from because they were just too hard to play along with. But in the video, he shows off his love for gear, i.e., amps and effects and all that. And he used this phrase in the video that I still use to this day. He referred to all of his effects pedals and his effects units. He called it grease. He said, I like my guitars to have a lot of grease on them. And he was referring to all his effects. And to this day, I still use that term of that's got a lot of grease on it, or that needs a little bit more grease.
I think you've already used it. Yeah. That's funny.
So, and that's how I learned. I knew he played for Toto, but I didn't really know a whole lot about him as far as a guitar player until I watched that video. And then after that, I was just, he's just an incredible guitar player. And just became a fan of his after that. Before the show, did you have any background on Steve Lukather?
On Steve Lukather, other than, I do like Toto. Their songs are kind of, they wail. You think of like Rosanna.
Yeah.
They're just wailing. Then you go to like Africa and some of the other ballads and stuff. I still love them, but the music is I don't know. I don't know if you call them rock or soft rock or yacht rock or...
I think they fit into all those.
There's a lot of different groupings you can put them in, but
sure.
Oh yeah, love Toto. I did not know that he was the session musician with Richard Marx though for this album.
Oh,
and I had literally not heard this song in like 30 years. It was just memories of where we lived at the time. Me and Mom just came flooding back, and I soon after the Rush Street came out, we had that cassette. We had the Repeat Offender cassette too. Yeah. Mom loved Richard Marx. In fact, we saw him live July 28th, 1992. I looked it up.
Oh,
we
wow.
went to a concert at the Clearfield County Fair.
Nice.
And, I watched Richard Marx. He had two guitarists with him.
Yeah.
It wasn't Lukather.
No.
It was actually Paul Warren, I'm pretty sure, that was playing lead for Marx on that tour. But the only thing I really remember about the concert is they had these two like steel platforms on opposite sides of the stage, and the guitar players would go up there and just climb them and wail.
Nice.
Ascend to the heavens.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I dug it. I loved that album. Going back and listening to that whole thing this week was just great.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm pretty sure it was Paul Warren. I looked it up. He was Marx's guitarist and musical director from 87 to 94. And his history includes being a member of Raymond Zarrick's Night City Band. He also worked with Tina Turner, Joe Cocker, and Rod Stewart. This is Richard Marx's touring
guitar player.
Guitarist.
Yeah.
Paul Warren. So a little bit different there. Lukather, just listening to the album cut, it's great. I went on to YouTube and found a concert back from, I think, 92.
Yeah.
And watched them play this song, and it was great.
Was it Lukather playing the guitar?
No, it was Warren.
Warren.
Yeah, it was Warren. That's why I was like, this isn't Lukather.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where
did he pull off the solo?
Went down a rabbit hole. Oh yeah. Pulled off the solo and the talk box.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I need to look that up.
The breakdown.
So my favorite part of this solo, aside from the tone that he gets, he's just a great tone, but it's his use of the whammy bar throughout the solo. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of guys that could do. There's a fine line in how much whammy bar you use. It can be tasteful, and it can just go straight into God, stop doing that. But he does it. I mean, the way he uses it in the solo, and he uses it throughout. Basically, he does just a masterful job of it, and it just fits every time he uses it. This solo is all over the place. I mean, you got him using the whammy. He's tapping. Got a couple of really fast runs. But one of the techniques that he uses in a lot of his solos, and he does it in this song too, I think twice. He does a lot of huge note bends, not just a small bend, but he bends them up like two notes, really quick and back down again. That's one of his signature moves in some of his solos, and I just love it when he does that. But you just mentioned it just a second ago. Another part of this song, it's his outro solo, is he's doing it with a talk box.
Yeah. And
I love when guys use a talk box. When I was 16, 86, so when I was 16 and Living on a Prayer came out from Bon Jovi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My guitar teacher actually had a talk box, and he taught me how to use it. And so I just fell in love with it then. So to hear somebody else play a talk box it's great. So that's one of my favorite parts of because it just adds so much to already what you're playing.
I forgot how good this solo really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it plays really nice with the rhythm guitar because they bring in this rhythm guitar part, and then he just goes after it. And he makes that guitar talk, not just with his mouth, but I mean, just like you said, he's all up and down the thing in different patterns and styles. And that talk box at the end was just really fun. It's been 30 years since I listened to this song. I swear to God, it's gone way too long, but it's so good. And it's just, I always thought it was interesting, and going back now and listening with the headphones too, to hear the beat track that they use with the real drums kind of intermixed throughout the song. Just so interesting. You know, you don't think of backing tracks being used, or at least I don't, going back to the early 90s and stuff. That was probably when a lot of that stuff was really starting to be put into music.
Yeah.
But it's so cool because it just has that kind of funky rhythm to start the song. You're bopping your head, and then they, break in the real drums to play along with it. It's so cool.
Yeah. And then when everything drops out, you can still hear it in the background. I mean, it just fits right behind all the whole time.
And this is the first song on the album.
Yeah.
I forgot how much other stuff is kind of influenced or intermixed within the album. I forgot the whole Barry White thing was there at the beginning. Let's get busy.
Yeah.
I wonder how much he got paid for just saying those three words, I don't think he appears anywhere else on the album.
No, he doesn't. That's just that right there.
Let's get busy.
That's funny. Yeah.
But it's such an interesting song, I think. And great pick. I would not have thought of this song at all, and I'm glad you picked it.
It's probably my, I would say, second or third favorite Richard Marx song because of that solo.
Mm-hmm.
So I when we said 90s, this is probably one of the first songs that came to my mind was this one. So
really,
so Steve Lukather via Richard Marx comes in at number 20 on our top 25 guitar solos of the 90s list. This week's bonus songs, or song, I should say, is a Toto song from 1978 that features a younger Steve Lukather at his finest. We're going to play Hold the Line from the album Toto.
Oh, yeah.
That solo is smoking.
Oh.
So if you have
Might be my favorite Toto song.
If you have Spotify
it's so
Premium, you're getting ready to hear that song in its entirety. If you're a free Spotify user, you'll get about 30 seconds of that song, and you're going to want more. Outside of Spotify, you aren't hearing anything but our background music, and you'll have to use the song with links in the show notes to find the songs in your favorite music app. Give us your thoughts on today's episode via social media. You can find us on Twitter at Greatest Lists. You can also stream this episode and all episodes at greatestlistpodcast.com, or we're available in your favorite listening app. Jason will be back in the driver's seat for our number 19 song in our next episode. Thanks for listening to The Greatest Lists. We look forward to continuing our list next episode.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.